Okay, so we have two main um, software development cycles. Okay, um, we have the traditional and the one that is more used today, which we call it the agile approach. So the traditional have a waterfall, and it has V model. And this particular one, we call it sequential, okay, because um, the way the software is developed is in kind of series or steps, and each step has to follow each other. So you have, if the step one is requirement, step two has to go to maybe design, step three has to go to development, then it has to go to testing, and um, then maybe maintenance. So in this approach, it will be like one, two, three, four, and you can't skip any step, any step. Okay, it has to follow sequentially. So sometimes it's referred as sequential. Sequential. Then we have the other type, which is um, iterative. Some like to pronounce it iterative, whichever way you want to pronounce it. Well, maybe because I use Queen's English, so iterative approach. And this, most people would like to refer it as agile. The reason why they call it agile is because, as the name implies, it's not as fixed as this one. It's not as sequential as this one. It may not follow the steps rigidly. Okay. So in this approach, it's more flexible. In this approach, it's more flexible. So they can start with requirements, development, and whilst you are doing testing, the client can come, or product owner can come, or the customer can say, look, I've changed my mind. I think if we do it this way, it will be better based on our competitors, what they are doing. If you add this requirement to it, it will be much better. Or I need this requirement now. I want it as a matter of priority due to legislative, GDPR, or other things. They can say, look, let's hold on due to this legislation or whatever. Let's do this requirement. So in Agile, things can change at any time. That's why we call this one Agile. And in Agile, we have different approaches in there. We have different models. Some will say Kanban. I think both of you have done, all of you have done this already, but I'm trying to break it down. Then we see where TDD fits in, ATDD and BDD. Then it will make it. So under this, we have a lot of approaches. Let me try and expand it. There are many. Um, Another one is ARIP. Okay, so under this iterative, some may use Kanban, some may use Scrum, Extreme Programming, Rational. Some can combine this and that. Okay, so they can call it Scrumban, but they can be doing Kanban, but they will not do everything within the Scrum ceremonies. But maybe they will do stand up, but they will not do sprint planning. They may not do retrospective, but they will do daily stand up. But what they will be doing is more Kanban approach. Some will do these things. Don't try to bring in DevOps, although DevOps is not a model, it's more of tools and processes of how release is done. So don't, when they ask you, don't bring that in. Now, under this Kanban and Scrum or Extreme Programming, Rational Unified Processes, there are other frameworks that fit into these processes. Okay. And the one we'll be looking into is the test-driven development. This approach has its grassroots from this extreme programming. It's more of how developers used to produce software, and before they produce software, they try to write a logic, and in the logic that they write, um, let me see if I can. B and C. Before they develop a code, they try to write a form of assertion. Okay, that that assertion should kind of fail. Okay, but as the code is developing, the assertion should now pass. So basically, they are writing with the intention that they have already failed the code. Okay, so as the developer is writing the code, the test should pass. Okay, so if the code is good enough, the test should pass. But if the code is still bad, it should still be failing. And that way they can rectify the issue. So it starts with this approach of having the testers mindset. At that time, they didn't have dedicated testers like how we have today, that most industries are now recognizing the need to have objective testers. It was the developers who do their own testing. But over time, this approach didn't work well. And still, some companies use it in terms of development approach. They write the test first, and um, later on they develop the application based on the requirement. Um, but as processes are growing over time, they saw the need that in order to get better at the requirements and developing what the users want, it's good to see things from an acceptance criteria point of view. An acceptance criteria is now not the decision of the developer. In this situation, is the developer who is writing the test based on his decision as this is what he thinks should fail or they should pass. But with the acceptance testing, it's not his decision. It's now more of a collaborative decision. So the business users or business analysts, together with maybe if they are testers, will write what we call an acceptance criteria. Now, somebody will ask, what is this? Yeah, because you are going to hear it a lot. When you want a requirement, like you want to make an application so that people can apply for loan, okay, it's a general requirement. That requirement is too big. The business analysts or the developers or the team need to understand what is the minimum criteria by which you think it should be the requirement should be acceptable. Okay. The minimum criteria, you have to state it. Sometimes some business or stakeholders do not have that idea of what they want. They have the idea of what they want, but they don't have the idea of the acceptance criteria. So business analysts are trained as analysts to dig in based on their experience to say, okay, with the loan application, if somebody is applying for that loan, we should say that if the developer is going to code the application, there should be a minimum age. Okay, the person must be in UK. The person must be working. Okay, so let me go back to this drawing board. So the requirement is for, let's say, loan application. Let me bring in loan application in there. The requirement is for a loan application. Now, in the acceptance test-driven development, there is now a criteria, an acceptance criteria for this loan application. That these are the minimum requirements. Somebody's background is making noise. If you can mute
Someone
yourself,
is echoing.
and I think it's gone. So
Perfect.
I let me mute Ajibola as well. Yeah, I think everybody's muted. And please, when you join, try and mute your background. Um, we are recording the session, so we want the playback to be nice and presentable. So as QA, I'm going to try to explain this, how this will work very well from you. Most of the things that we are doing, because the business analysts all need to know all this. This should be a general session, but I'll try to um, um, narrow it down from the QA. Now, because they said they've added a minimum criteria by which this requirement must be fulfilled, or this requirement must be complete for the loan application, that the person must be in UK. So if you are testing this, if the person is from Slovenia and they try to apply, they are 18, they have a bank account in UK, and maybe they are not UK, they are working, that means that this requirement has not been met. So what? It's not a pass or it's a fail. If the person is not 18, maybe they are under 16 and they want to apply for that loan, you should not accept them once they enter their date of birth. Okay. If they don't have a bank account, how is the loan process going to be paid into their, they are not going to pay into their account as cash. Okay, they want a bank account so that they can pay into the person's bank account. So the person can be in UK or be a UK national. Okay, they are 18, but they don't have a bank account. So this requirement will not be met. Okay, is the person working? Maybe they want to borrow. They are a UK national, they are 18, they have a bank account, but they are not working. So if we from Blue Sky Citadel, somebody has come to Deji to say, okay, I want you to create a software for me for loan application, and we or the business analysts or we testers have to check this criteria. Sometimes they may not have this criteria, but whilst you are doing static analysis and you are checking the requirement, you have to be asking questions, okay? Because the business analyst may miss some of these requirements, but you can suggest to the team that, oh, would it be okay to add this? They will say, okay, maybe we don't need that. At the moment, this three is what we need. So we should work with what we have. But by analyzing and questioning and also giving suggestion, you are improving the program, the development of the application right from the initiation stage where it's starting, so that you don't wait till it's completed or is pushed to your environment before you test. So let me add this as a bonus. These days, they like what we call shift left. Some of you may understand this, but these days, most of the jobs, even if they don't say it and you are going for interview, this is something, a bonus you can talk about. But understand how you go about it. The whole approach is that when you look at the agile Kanban board, we have the BA column. Where's my drawing board? We have a column here. 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 The ticket or the stories is moving in this way. Okay. But the requirement or product backlog are here in this first column. The whole idea is that even from the requirements, we are doing static analysis and testing it, whether we can, whilst you are estimating the story, when you give 5 or 8, you are giving good reason why you are saying 5, not because your teammates are saying 5, so you are also saying 5, so that you, when they call you, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, some of you were doing sprint planning. Um, so the whole idea is that you, if this is the QA column, okay, QA column, you are shifting left to this point and you are beginning your testing from the requirements, so that as they are bringing the features, before they work on it, before you do your test cases, you are checking that every story is completed in terms of the acceptance criteria, in terms of the requirements. Is it clear enough? And I've given you the example today from this one. So I have some slides which I will share with you, but this slide you can get it from the Agile, which I will recommend you to read. Is about 46 pages. Agile testers on the ISTQB. So I will paste the link in our QA guild. Basically, it says the test-driven development or acceptance criteria are, are three complementary techniques used among agile teams to carry out testing. Okay, to carry out testing across various test levels. Each technique is an example of fundamental principle of testing. The benefit of early testing, which I'm talking about the shift left, and QA activities, since these tests are defined before the code is written. So even before the code is written or before they complete the features, we are thinking tactically how we are going to test the product. Okay. This is not only for the QA, it's only also for the developers. In TDD, and I think I've done this with the small circle that I drew, that you add a test that captures the programmer's concept and the desired functioning of a small piece of code. You run the test, which should fail since the code doesn't exist. So I don't know if the team has already done it. What we sometimes tell the team is that when you start your requirement and your framework is set up, okay, even if your features hasn't been completed by the developer, we want to see your let me open the IntelliJ so that it will be more visual. We want to see your feature file. We want to see your step definition so that although you can't select the element, I think yesterday or whatever, somebody is going to take on elements. Uh, although you cannot select the element to run the test, your test will be empty. It will tell you that it has skipped the test, or it will tell you that it has failed because there's no proper implementation of code. Okay, so we required all QAs who are doing automation as part of their package to do that, because some of them will be waiting. Oh, the developer hasn't finished, so I can't start the automation. No, create your feature file. And I think some of you understand the feature file and other things. So I'm going to share this IntelliJ. So I'm bringing in the practical application of this. This is the feature file. Okay. So your feature file has the name of the feature, then it has the story, then it has the scenario. Create the step definition. The step definition has a binding, a cucumber binding that will generate it into a Java code. So if we go into this, it will give you something like this, given, and it will create a method for you, and it will create a method for you. So though the developer hasn't finished, you've run you've done some form of TDD, that your test is ready. But as the code is coming, if you run your test, because this code is not there, you don't expect it to pass because there are no implementation of driver find element or driver navigate to gift rates, because those things are not ready. Okay, but as the developer finish with that feature and you put those implementation, you expect it to pass. That is exactly the same idea the developer is using for TDD. They they do some sort of a code, like a dry run test. Okay, so they expect the test not to pass or it will skip the test. But as they are developing the code, now they expect the test to pass. With the acceptance criteria, you will see that it will give you things. Oh, I've gone too far. Yeah, so you run the test, which will fail since the code doesn't exist. You write the code and run the test in a tight loop until it passes. You refactor the code after the test is passed, rerunning the test to ensure it continues. If you are doing manual testing, this may not make sense to you, but as most of you are doing automation, you have idea of what test-driven development is, and you repeat this as you are developing your code. And please, um, apart from I think some of you have the framework that you have downloaded from um, GitHub. But if you are running your code, where's the IntelliJ? Please run one code at a time. Let this step pass. Then you go into the second step definition. Then you implement the code. Some of you would do this, and I know from uh, 1 second, let me mute someone. Please, when you join, mute yourself. Don't wait till you implement every scenario or every line before you run your test. It will make debugging very difficult for you and it is going to waste your time. So once you do your feature file like this, and this has two steps, okay? If I create the step definition for it and I'm creating my page object, do this one and run this code, okay? Let me go into run this code. Let it go to Chrome. Open Chrome. Let it insert www.giftrate.com and let it maximize the window. After you've seen that this test has passed, you implement this step as well. That is the whole idea of TDD, that you refactor the code, you create a code, you check whether it will pass or fail, you refactor it, then you move on to the next step. Some of you will make that mistake of trying to do all the fine elements for everything on the page before implementing. Then they'll say, oh, I'm having issues. Okay, so that's the best, I think, good advice I can give you on coding side. Now we move on to the BDD. And I think some of you have heard BDD. What is this BDD? Everywhere I go, they say BDD, BDD. And you'll be surprised a lot of companies will say BDD, but they don't practice proper BDD. Some will also enforce the QAs to do BDD, but the developers are not using BDD. um, some will also enforce the QAs to do BDD, but the business analysts are not writing the given when then. You join some companies, you'll be surprised. They will tell you before you join in the interview that, oh, they do BDD, blah blah blah, and you'll be surprised the business analyst doesn't even write any story in BDD. Okay, let me minimize this and let's go to this one. Let me do the presentation at the back. And now from this ATDD, some saw that um, this also describe what we call the from the user point of view, okay, or behavior. So in other words, whilst they are giving you the acceptance criteria for those requirements, they are trying to tell you what they expect from the application, the behavior of the application. They expect it to only accept UK national people who are over 18, who are 18 or over 18, people who have bank accounts in UK and they are working. So they are giving you acceptance criteria, but at the same time, they are describing from the user point of view. Okay. This is what has further been developed into what we have as the BDD. Okay. And you see from our, and for most of you on Blue Sky internship, you'll be using BDD. So you are one step or many steps ahead of a lot of training schools. The B stand for behavior. The D is the same as this one, driven. Test driven, TDD, ATDD, and BDD. All these development approaches or framework, as I told you, they can still fall under this agile approach. So you can be practicing Scrum and be doing BDD. You can be practicing Kanban and still be doing BDD. You can be doing maybe extreme programming or rapid application, and you can be doing test driven development or acceptance test driven development. So you can be doing one of these approaches, but this framework of how the application to be developed can still fall under any of this. So don't think, because some people make it so confusing that they just say, okay, we only do BDD as if, but under BDD, they don't tell you whether they are using Kanban system or they are using Scrum. Okay. So for us, we are using Scrum, okay, process, and we are using BDD approach. In the BDD approach, as I told you, it also has its roots from this ATDD, user behavior
Mo
of
máa lè
the.
tilé kí mi máa lè lè sọ àjọ máa gbélé tí ilé ìbá
You
lọ.
see,
A máa
people who
gbélé.
join late are the ones who make the noise. So
Mute, 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 mute.
don't worry, I'll mute the person. Those who join late, they are the ones disturbing the class. Oludari, I hope you are the one laughing. Okay, I was going to mute you.
Yeah, I'm not laughing, but not me.
Okay. Um. Yeah, most times the people who join late because they are not there when we start. So when they join, they forget to mute themselves. It's very important. Everything we are teaching you here, don't think what I'm teaching you is just what you need. We are trying to inculcate some attitude and practices and make you look professional at work. If I'm the CEO and I'm hosting a big meeting, you'll be joining companies that have people from America, Australia, and it's a big call, and you just join and there's a noise in the background. You get it. It doesn't speak well of you. So the reason why we tell you that you get used to muting yourself till you want to speak, there's this reactions over there, over here. You have reactions. If you want to speak, you can raise your hand up, you can type a message, you can clap, you can smile if you are surprised or whatever. But try and mute yourself till you want to talk. I know sometimes when people join, they don't look at their phone whether it's on mute or not, but try and mute yourself, because maybe you can be insulting somebody and your manager will think you are insulting them. you know. Um, okay. Behavior driven approach. Some companies like this, but they don't implement it correctly. The whole idea is that with this approach, they notice that this favors well for testers and for developers. This favors well for testers, developers, and sometimes the business analysts. Okay. But the stakeholders are still lost. Some stakeholders, the CEOs and things like that, when they come to your what is it called? Your Azure DevOps board, and they see some of the requirements, they are lost. They don't know what the requirements are saying. Although they've given the requirements up, they don't know the test what it's doing and things like that. And sometimes they want to probe into it because when you are doing your demo and things like that, they want to understand how you guys go about it. This helps everyone on board to be on the same level of understanding of the requirements, because it breaks down the requirements into scenarios and it uses a special language Okay, I think some of you know the language already, but for those who don't know it, it's English word, but I don't know the person who coined this word, how he went if he went to Saudi Arabia or somewhere to get this gherkin. The whole idea of BDD is that because it's describing things from a user point of view, it wants to tell us the expectation of the user, the action of the user, and the prerequisites of the user. Okay. So if the user want to log in and apply for loan, we want to say that the user must be on the website. Okay. The user must be able to fulfill this requirement. Then the user should be able to now submit the application form. And because of this, it makes it so easy for everyone to understand. So the business analyst will sometimes write scenario, and they will put the scenario in a form of a user story, and they will describe it as so. This is very key. Some business analysts go to the extent that they will make these things very bold, okay, because they are telling what the user is going to do, what the user wants, and what the user expects. And this makes it easier for everyone on board to know what the stakeholders want from that particular requirement. Again, they break this thing down into giving, when, and then. These are the keywords in Gherkin. There are other keywords in Gherkin. Some will call this as Gherkin syntax. There are times when they use and but. You can use the and but in between this. So let me copy and paste. But the ones you see a lot is and. You hardly would you see but. They will use but in negative scenario, but trust me, hardly would a lot of people do it, because I don't think the business analysts they are too bothered to go into it. So let me copy and paste, and let's do this one. Okay, so the given is telling us the precondition. The when is telling us what the user should do. Okay, but in a short form, you can say action. And the then is that after the user perform this action, they should get what? An outcome or result. But there are times when the precondition can be multiple precondition. So they use and as a conjunction to join multiple precondition. Okay. And the action sometimes, like this one, the person must fill the form. UK national, the person must fill the form that they are 18. The person must have an account and other things that the actions that the person has to do for it to happen. If it's login, maybe they have to put in username, they have to put in a password. All those are action, and after that, they can enter into the page or the website to see that the account is open for them. So there could be multiple actions, so you can join them with and. Let me put and here. And sometimes too, there can be multiple outcome or results. Most times there will be one. Most times there will be one, but sometimes there could be multiple outcome or results. The whole idea of this is that it should help the developers to also code it in a BDD fashion, but most of them don't do it. They will still go by their old school way of test-driven approach and write their unit test, or sometimes they can just go by ATDD. But hardly have I seen them also using given when then in the approach. But for us testers, we have to, if you are doing automation, it's not compulsory, but if the company is using BDD, they is more like a requirement for also for you to use BDD approach. Now, because of this Gherkin language that has given, when, and then, we have tools that can translate this particular scenario. Okay, I've forgotten, not that I've forgotten, but let me put scenario here. Let me expand this. This particular scenario, we have tools when we are doing automation that can translate this into the respective method or language code that you want to use in order to automate it. And for Java, we have, let me come here and do it here. We have Cucumber. Please, you will see some applications form that they themselves, they are even confused. They will mess up Java and they will put spec flow here. Spec flow is for C sharp. You guys will not know about the spec flow one, but for C sharp language, C sharp, we call it spec flow. For Python, we have it for different languages. Some for JavaScript, some for Ruby, and so many languages have their own respective um, tool that helps to translate this particular scenario into an appropriate respective language binding. We call it language binding because um, the exact same words. So let me be more practical here so that you can see the difference. You can see here, I have the scenario as verify user can navigate to website. And I have given I navigate to the website. This given is the Gherkin syntax. This then is a Gherkin syntax. In this scenario, I just want to display two things. Once the person goes to the gift rate website, they don't have to type in anything. They don't have to log in. I just want to see that the website has opened. Okay. If you have Cucumber installed, it will translate this. It will this particular Gherkin language or this scenario is going to translate this and the words over here into a method. Um, I think you guys have done Java and you've learned about methods, so I won't go into it. But a method is what makes or executes your code. Okay, before you can run a code on a computer, you have to put inside a method, and the method is what will execute the code for you to see the action. Okay. Um, so if you come here, you can see here they're giving this a sign over here or at sign. In Java, we will call it annotation. Okay, so when you see this a at sign, you can call it, and it's annotated this particular language, giving I navigate to gift rate website. And it has given us that respective binding. The respective binding is public void I navigate to gift rate website. Is the exact same thing that is here, but without space. Because in Java language and most programming language, when you are writing a method, you don't leave a space. And in Java, when you are writing a method, the first letter must be in small letter. So you can see here, although it's in a capital letter, here it has translated into a small letter I, but the remaining words has to start with capital letters. Okay, the remaining words navigate is starting with capital, to is starting with capital, gift rate is starting with capital, website is starting with capital, page is starting with capital. But when you come here, it's not like that. Navigate doesn't start with capital, to doesn't start with capital, because the cucumber that you downloaded has translated this using a binding language. Okay, some is somebody who that is their job. They've done that program for you to use for free. You know, that is their work. They do it at their leisure time. They call them open source projects. Okay, so they have done this for you so that you don't have to sweat to put to do this public void method. Okay, so it's translated it for you. So in BDD, these are the things we need to know. The Java one, the spec flow, this one they call one of them JBehave and other things. Um, but let me remove this one because you don't need to know this one. Java Cucumber for BDD. There's another one too for BDD that they call it Serenity BDD. I haven't used it before, but I've heard it. So those using Java can sometimes use this Java Cucumber BDD or Serenity BDD as well. Um, now let me go back to the slides. So acceptance test, yeah, then the behavior driven. Any question?
None for me.
Okay. We will go on and learn about Selenium a little bit. I think some of you have started using Selenium. Um, Okay. Selenium, I don't have the slides um ready. I was doing the slide, but I was having challenges. But let me use my notepad. Come. Most applications that you see in terms of software applications, since the dawn of the internet, there has been a massive boom to web application. Um, Before, most things that you will use will be desktop application and games in the 70s and things like that, and the 80s. But since the 90s and World Wide Web became popular, and companies noticed that, oh, they can have online presence, they can do business online and things like that. And now with cloud applications, a lot of things are on the web. So we have about, this is my own statistics. So 70 web, but let me do it 60. Let me do it 60. The reason why I'm doing 60 is because for the last few years, mobile has really gone up. So let's say 30, and we have about five. Uh, oh, let's say 10. Mobile keeps increasing at a rate that is too astronomical. Um, but in terms of automation, that's why I'm giving the statistics. Most jobs out there that you see, almost 60% automation you do in terms of front end. I'm not talking about API and database and things like that. In terms of front end, most of the automation you will do will be about 60% web, okay, and maybe about 30% mobile and 10% desktop. Okay, most people who do in desktop application are huge companies, Oracle, Microsoft, and things like that. That they are making all the software. So the software that I've installed on my desktop like this. So for example, we have Telegram desktop, which is this. We have Telegram mobile. Okay, but only few people will install Telegram on their desktop because most people are on the go, so they will prefer it being on their phone unless they are using it for work and other things like you guys being in the internship. Now, Selenium is a web automation tool. Automation tool developed by some people, ThoughtWorks, and other things that later on some people took it further. And initially, it had four components. By the moment, it has three. Um, it had the IDE, it has the web driver, and it has the Selenium grid. So we have IDE like this, web driver, because we'll be learning about web driver, and we have the grid. IDE, web driver, and grid. The ID is a playback tool, so it helps you to do recording and playback. So what it does is that you can install it on your web browser, and as you are moving across the board like this, it will be clicking on points and selecting elements. So it will remember all the movements I've done on the screen or the website, and it will record it as steps, and you can play back. It has a lot of limitation because it's not dynamic enough, and you can't really add parameters or data driven to do in a way that you can do it with um, um, WebDriver. Then we have the Selenium grid where you can run it on remote servers or virtual machines. So you can have one virtual machine which is maybe um, Windows, one virtual machine that is Linux, one machine that is um, it deals with Mac, and you can run this to automate on those particular browsers that you want to run in those machines. But by far, out of these three, one, two, three, this is the most used and most loved automation tool that you are going to use. That's why we're teaching this. So everything that we've planned for Blue Sky Citadel, there is a reason, there's a purpose, because we want you to go into the market out there, get job quickly. There's no point teaching IDE and grid because Hollywood, a lot of companies do this. If they can do this, they won't have a high automation tester, you know, and they want somebody with a little bit of skills too. And that's why they pay them a lot. And for WebDriver, this WebDriver has certain components that we use to help enable us to do the front end automation on websites. It has about, I think, four main components. Over time, we have different version. Currently, the version that we have is the main version is 4.4 or something like that. But the version 4 release, it used to use what we call JSON wire protocol, but at the moment, it's they've changed it to WC protocol. WC protocol. I'll take a screenshot. Oh, this screenshot is still here. Let me do a new screenshot then. And let me drag my pen. Before this WebDriver, the other fourth component they used to have was called Selenium remote, something called remote or something. What made me to remind myself was, if this is a website, which I'm going to open a website and we'll see how it works. This website will have a URL here, okay, at the top. It will have some stuff on here. Behind this, we'll have some language in between there. What Selenium WC protocol? The WC protocol The WC is like the World Consortium for Websites. Okay. And they are, since Tim Berners, the person who invented website HTTP, came up, it's like his form some kind of charity association that look after those things, and they bring the standard that browsers like Chrome and Brave, like you can see here, I have Brave, Chrome, Firefox, and Edge is here. All these browsers must follow a certain standard. Okay, a certain standard, a WC standard or something. When you Google it, you can see it. And this standard shows that, okay, the website must have this type of security. It must have this type of protocol. It should be able to be API compliant and other things. And this Selenium attach itself to this web browser, and it tries to interact with the elements over here. So when you click on the logo, what Selenium is doing is that it is sending a post command or a get command. You don't see it, but behind the Selenium framework, they've written some code in there that does those API calls. So later on, if you guys are learning API, application programming interface. So once you hit enter, it's sending an insert command, okay, or a post command that this user is trying to insert a username called Kwame at who nobody's know.com. You get it as email address, and his password is blah blah blah. And that is what he's trying to insert in there. And this Selenium does that. Now let's open a typical website and see what I mean. Let's see. Okay, so let me use this one. Right. What I'm doing, you're going to do it a lot. I don't know if yesterday you learned about how to inspect an element. So I'm clicking anywhere on the web page, okay, and I'm using the inspect. If you click anywhere on the web page on your mouse, you right click the mouse, it will give you some sort of menu, and you use inspect, okay. The inspect will open the element console, and you can see welcome and sources. This is an HTML element here, okay, and all the things you are seeing here, all the fancy things you are seeing here is supported by this, okay, by this code. Now, what Selenium is doing is that if I type in here, um, you guys are doing Java. Once I type in here this Java and I hit enter, because you are going to use some keywords like send keys, enter. That enter is sending a post request that it should look for this particular thing on the page, or it should navigate to this page. Okay, they are all Selenium commands. Okay, but in order for you to do that, you need to know that particular field. This field is a search field. Okay, if I click the inspect again, it's going to open here as text placeholder, search for our tutorials, HTML. There's an ID for it. Um, Sometimes you will have name next to it. If it doesn't have it, what you have to use is CSS and other elements. Somebody is going to take you through that class. And those things helps you to find the elements, the web elements for that particular thing. All these things are hosted behind it. There's a web element. So if you want to click try it yourself, you can see it takes me to another page. There's a web element that when I click, it takes that command. What Selenium is doing is that it's attaching itself to this particular element so that once you use those commands, it will do those things that you want to do. But you can see that physically, I'm typing in the text box. Okay, what did I type first? Java. Okay, because we are doing Java. I'm typing in Java. When you are automating your code, if this is a parameter you want to give or a set of sentence that you want to put into this search field, you have to tell Selenium whilst you are writing the code, because you are going to use Java, but the Java you are going to use has the Selenium client that you have downloaded. So most of you, when you are doing your POM over here, POM XML, you downloaded maybe Cucumber JVM devs, you downloaded TestNG, you may have Selenium here, this Selenium HQ, Chrome driver. This is the Java. This is for Java language, okay? And this is for the Chrome driver. Now, though you'll be typing the Java language, you'll be using the libraries. When we say libraries, it's like the set of words or syntax that have actions behind it that will enable you to execute your code. So this Selenium has its own keywords. It has its own um, how do we call it, syntaxes that you can use to write certain code. Let me go to the IntelliJ again and go to step definition. So you can see here, I have driver, get, manage, window, maximize. All these words are not Java keywords. They are Selenium keywords. So in order for you to automate, you need your Java. Oh, why is my pen working? My pen. This is not helping me. This is good for drawing. Let me use the notepad. You need your Java. You need Cucumber. You need your Selenium. There are so many things you need. I can't go into it. If you want to do reporting, law reports, and those things, but just you need your Chrome, because it will depend on the website you want to use. Sorry, the browser. If you want to use Firefox, Edge, or Chrome, or maybe where's the other one? Safari or whatever. So you need the browser type. So let's say Chrome. So all these things you need it together with the Maven is for your build. Okay. The Maven is for your build. There are so many things you will need. All this is helping you to write your Selenium code. But for this Selenium, as I told you, it has certain commands or keywords that we need to use whilst we are coding. So though we are using Java language, we need to look at some of these commands. We won't go through all because you'll be doing the coding itself, but we go through key ones. Um, when you are it has some of the commands are broken into four types, but we have the search context ones, we have the four main ones, which are like the click that you use a lot. Um, clear, um, um, select, select element, what else? Let me see which one I can see. Send keys is also there. Get, navigate, send keys, close, quit. So you need this in your automation a lot, depending on what you're doing. Okay, depending on what um Gherkin syntax or the feature file you are working on. But before you use these things, okay, you need to create an object. We are going to coding a little bit. I know you guys have done coding already, because this Selenium, as I told you and I explained in the slide over here, that it's like an API doing a get and post commands, application programming interface. Because this Selenium will have what we call, sometimes they call it iDriver context or iSearch context, but we're going to the driver context. Okay. Let me erase it. When I write it here, this mouse doesn't allow me. Web driver. This web driver in Selenium is an interface. Okay, interface. For those doing C sharp, they will see it as iWebDriver, because in C sharp, interface starts with I to denote that it's an interface. So every interface you create in C sharp should start with I. But in Java, it doesn't start with I. But in a way, it's an interface. Um, you need to create an object of this interface to get those commands I told you, the clear, get, navigate, and things like that. And to create an object in Java, you use the keyword new. Okay, new is very important. If you miss this new, it won't create an object. And it's similar to other languages like C sharp as well. The equal to sign here, you see it is not a normal equal to. In coding or programming, we call it assignment. Okay, basically we are giving what is on here, we are giving it an assignment. Okay, and this is the assignment. The assignment is the one on the right. So don't say equal to. When they either use double equal to, or they in Java they will use the word equal. They will use the word equal to represent equal to. Let me, I don't think we will use this for now, but let me go to here. So you can see here, the first thing, I think some of you have had issues when I look at the QA guild. You have to import the Selenium package, okay? Because you remember in the jar files, sorry, in the POM XML, you went to Maven. I don't know if that's how you did it, but if you are doing from the scratch, you have to go to Maven repository. There's a website. I don't know. I think they shared it with you. Maven repository. This one. Okay. Because you are using Maven to download, you go here and you type Selenium. Okay. And when we search for it, it's going to give you a Selenium server, Selenium API, Selenium support. We'll go into this Selenium support later because we are learning about the commands and things like that. This is helping you to get all the commands that we need and some of the words or key methods that you need. There are some predefined classes. Let me use the text pad. Okay, so we've said commands. Let me go to the next one. Classes and methods. Okay, this has been predefined already in Selenium. So you downloading Selenium into your Java project, it gives you access to these classes and these methods in order to facilitate your code. Okay, so what you are seeing is over here is that I'm declaring this interface WebDriver. Okay, WebDriver, and out of the WebDriver, I'm creating an object, or it's like a I don't want to give the technical definition of interface because it's like a class without implementation. But the example I give is that we are in the QA class right now, okay? And if I say somebody should share their screen, anybody at all will share their screen, okay? But immediately let me look at the list, and immediately I look at the list and I say, Mohammed, share your screen. If Mohammed is the only person on call Mohammed, he knows that I'm speaking to him. Okay. So Mohammed is a representation of our class. You get it? So I can refer to Mohammed in the QA class that every time, Mohammed, when you come, I want you to share your screen. Somebody has raised his hand. Okay. I think it's Mohammed. Yeah. So I can always refer to Mohammed. Oh, Mohammed, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I want you to do this. It's the same thing we are doing here. Okay. Although I want this WebDriver to do it, because it's an interface, if I tell it to do anything, it wouldn't know what I want it to do. So I have to declare an object of this driver. This object, you can call it any name. If I change it to my name, it will work. If I change my name, I have to change everything here to my name, Kwame, Kwame, Kwame. It will work. You can call it anything, it will work. But ideally, we like to call it driver because it's like a representative of this one. And there are two ways to do in the declaration and instantiationing of the object. So You can declare it like this: WebDriver driver semicolon. With a semicolon here, then you can instantiate it here with the new keyword over here. Or sometimes you can do it like this: WebDriver. No. You bring the assignment sign there. You can also do it like this. You can also do it. You can do it on the same line, or you can declare and later on you instantiate it. Okay. So you can do it this way, like I've done, or you can, because there will be times when you guys will be doing page objects. Let me see this one. I have it. I haven't done page objects here. There will be times, because in this code I've done everything. I haven't done um how do you call it, page object model. Because when you do your page object model, you may need it a lot, and you have to know how to do it the second way that I showed you. um so because now I've declared it here and I've initialized it with Chrome driver, it's now going to give me all the commands I need here for from Selenium. So anytime I hit driver, and in the same scenario I said Mohammed, because I've mentioned Mohammed, I can say Mohammed get, manage, find element, quit, close, get title, go and find me elements, go and get current URL, go and get me the page source. Mohammed, go and get me window handle. Okay, let me do it like this. If I do it like this, okay, it's going red because it noticed that I've changed it. Please don't go and use your name. Oh. I'm just breaking it down to make it meaningful for you guys. But just now, let's see the magic. Because I told you that you can declare it here with any name that you want, but ideally give it a name that is representative of the class or the interface. So because it's WebDriver, some will do it with small letters here and call it WebDriver. Some will just call it driver, like how you saw earlier on, like here. And because I've created an object called Kwame, anytime I call on Kwame like this, and I hit the period or the dot sign, you can see the same magic I was telling you earlier on. It's giving me all the commands that I need, all the methods. Sometimes it can give you the properties and yeah, the methods and the properties that you need for um, from that class or that interface that you've already created. But because Selenium has already created this for us, get, manage, find elements, you can go on and on and on and on. All the M are representative of method. So with Java, I think they've made things very easier, especially IntelliJ. So as you are hitting it, is giving IntelliSense of what this command. In the old school days, you won't see these things. it's a black screen and you have to know all the commands of it. So it's helping you and it's giving description, void, options, web element, void, and all those things. Um, so these days coding is easier, but it doesn't look easy for a lot of people who are starting. So if I want to say close, if I want to choose that Kwame close the web page for me, now I can get this command. Okay. If I want to say, if I hit the dot and I say Kwame handle the do a window handle, this you will learn it when we are doing pages, how we want to switch the pages and things like that. From maybe you are on a website. Hey, what is the other topic I have to teach? I forgot to know. They should remind me. Uh, I'm on this page, right? Okay. When I click on this, try it yourself. You can see that although I was here, it's open another tab. Okay. And sometimes you can navigate from one page that you are on to come to this page. And if this is the destination page and you finish testing on that page, you've done your session, you go back to this page. So what will be happening is that the web driver that you are using, it will be on this first page. It will not automatically go to the next page. Some pages can give you pop-up. Okay, like these days, every website you go, it will give you cookie, um, whatever notification for you to accept or reject or whatever. And that pop-up, you may have to switch from the main page that you were on to that page. That page can have what we call in plane or in uh, iframe, inline frame. And in that context, you have to find a way to find the element for the iframe. I think we will learn that later on in the automation. And that will help you to switch from that main page that you were on to the command. So basically, that is the explanation I can give in terms of how these things Selenium commands, because I can't go through all the commands. Navigate switch to. So switch to, you can use the switch to switch from the first frame to the second frame, or maybe if there's a third frame, then you come back. If it's an alert, so you can see here, there's a window active alert. There's a frame here. If I want to switch from um, some pop-up alert, then I have to choose this. Then I go to the pop-up alert. After I click on the pop-up alert and accept it, then I have to switch back. So you can go to default. When you choose Kwame, switch to default, then it will take you back to the main page that you're on. So there are so many commands, but you become familiar. But I'm teaching you to have the understanding of the concept of Selenium, how it works, and it will become easy for you to automate anything. Because once you know the logic behind how the tool works, um, you can find it will be easier for you to navigate your way through the code. There's I think Oyin has given you a website. There's um they have one called Selenium. Let me do this one and see which one will come. Automate the planet. Um, okay, so in In terms of the command, if you are initializing, like how I told you, WebDriver, if it's a Chrome driver, this is the commands. Because I can't go through the commands, there are many, but this link will give you some of the things that you need. If it's for Firefox driver, if it's for Edge that you are automating, if it's for Internet Explorer. So these are for initializing the browsers. Okay. And remember, you have to use new to initialize the browser. If it's for locators, you need the method. Once you hit driver and you hit the dot, it will give you a lot of options like I showed you. You choose find element. The find element is a method. Every method, this is very important. I mentioned classes here, commands, classes, and method. Method will always have this parenthesis, open and close brackets, you name it. People have different name for it. It has this because methods are always actions. As I told you, those methods are the things that help you to execute your code. And they put this there because sometimes you want to give some form of a data, a variable, or a parameter or argument. By encoding, we normally use argument or parameter. Okay. Let me short it like this, params, parameter. So a method should always have this bracket. Even if it doesn't contain anything, if it doesn't contain anything and it's empty, it should have this bracket. Okay. That means that that particular method will not work with any example of a parameter. So for example, I tell Mohammed again in our class, um, Mohammed is an object, but Mohammed can play football.
I was like Ronaldo, you know.
Well, Mohammed can play football, but if I tell Mohammed to go and play football right now and he doesn't have a football, he'll go to the pitch and he doesn't have a football to play with. But I can give Mohammed Ronaldo football. So let me put football here. Football. So now I've given him a football and not a volleyball, basketball. I've given him the appropriate parameter for him to go and use to do the action that I expect him to do. The same way you see here, driver, find element is a method. This will not give you the real picture. IntelliJ will do it. Let's use this one. Driver is here. Find element is a method. This is the first bracket. This is the last bracket. Forget about this click yet. Okay, that is doing something. That is giving you the commands that I mentioned. This bracket and this bracket is for find element. This bracket for this bracket is for this X path. Okay, this by is a class. Basically, what this code is saying is that this driver object, I want you to do something by going to the website and find me. Where is the website we're using? I want you to come to this website and come and you want to say you should come and click this thing. Whatever it clicks here will reflect whatever it will do in the front for you to see. It won't come here physically to do it. Actually, it's clicking, it's taking this element. You see this iframe that I was talking about. There are iframes on this website. It's coming to click something on here. So you are telling it that it should come and click. But before it can come and click, there are certain methods you need to use. All those methods belongs to a class. So this by, I want you to go and find me elements. But how do you want me to find the element? I want you to find it by expert. I want you to find it by CSS. I want you to find it by name. I want it to find it by ID. So if I remove this X here, dot full stop, and let me give a space here, and I hit this dot. So it's going to give me all the methods that I need in here: expert, class name, ID, CSS selector, link text, name, partial link text, tag name. There are about 7 or 8. These are the things normally we use to interact with the element that I showed you earlier on. This by is a class, and these methods are the actions that you want it to take. But as I told you, if you choose expert, you see there's a bracket here. Classes don't have brackets, but this class, expert, has string expression. Class name has a bracket. ID has a bracket. Selector has a bracket. It's telling you that it will need something to work with. It will need a parameter or argument. And this is what you go and select from your element to work with. Now, after it's selected, you want to give a command. What command do you want to do? Do you want to let's close this one a bit. So this expert has opening and closing brackets. You can see here. Let me zoom in for those who can't see it, if this is possible. Yeah, I can't zoom in. Let me editor. I wanted to zoom in a little bit. Okay, once this finish and I hit the dot here, I'm going to express that it should give me options to click, options to, like in this case, I want to send a text into a field because it's a search field, okay? And I want to input iPhone into that particular search box on gift rate website. So I'm saying that it should send keys into that particular field. Okay. So when you are sending text, you can use send keys. Send keys sometimes may not work, so you have to use keys.enter. That is another command. That command comes from another component of Selenium that we call action class. Okay, because there are some times when you want to do what we call drag. You want to drag across a website, or you want to measure, maybe it's a map, x-axis, y-axis, and things like that. Those things you can't use click, you can't use send keys, you can't use quit, clear. So you use the Selenium action class, which I was showing here. That where is the thing? Where is the most complete? Mm, let's see if we have it. Mm, This is for navigation, browser configuration. But what I want is It's somewhere here, but I can't. This one. If you want to do drag and drop, first of all, this time you won't use iWebDriver. You have to use Web Element interface. The Web Element will give you, you create a small variable in the core element, okay? Then you assign it to driver find element. You remember the driver is an object, and it will help you to find the element. Now, for actions, you use this. If you are using some IDE, it will color code all these things for you to see that it's an interface, it's a class, but everything looks black. So you can't see except when it's new, like this new keyword. This action class we've created or initializes with the driver in here. Okay, we created an object and initialize it. So because of that, we can drag and drop. So sometimes if you want to do a drag and drop on a website, you have to use this action class. If you want to do um, uh, element to wait, web element to wait, to wait for certain seconds for something to display, you use this web element. If you want to use the select class, I can't see if that one is here. If you want to attach screenshots or take screenshots, all these classes are here. I can't go through all the commands. There are many. WebDriver wait is another interface as well that you can use, or class that you can use if you want to tell it to wait till some condition is met. You will learn it when we are going to do implicit wait, explicit wait, and those things. You will learn all those commands, but I can't give examples of all of them today. But this website is the best link. I can show you where everything is, and you may not use all of them, so don't worry. During the internship, you are not using it. Oyins and a place, what is it called? Automation Help. And there's another one called, another website is shared on our guild, that you can use for practicing automation. But I think I will share with you one of the Saturday classes. At the moment, we can only meet on Wednesday because of your projects now started, and some Saturdays because you guys may meet on, some teams may meet on Saturdays for their retro before you do your presentation. So I'll try and avoid the days you guys will meet before those presentation and see. I will end here. I don't know if anyone has any question. I hope the team wasn't sleeping, oh, because me when I'm teaching, I can see people are sleeping.
No,
Annie,
we're
you
awake,
can
we're
talk.
awake.
Yeah, so I thank you very much for a well detailed and explained lecture. We really enjoyed it. So it's now clear what Selenium is and
Mhm.
what every other framework that we're using is. But
Yes.
what you didn't touch on is what IntelliJ is now. Is IntelliJ like a kind of a studio, visual studio, or I mean, like a brief explanation of what that IntelliJ is now? Having known what Selenium is,
Yes.
WebDriver, and all that, so I'm now like keen to know what, or curious to know what IntelliJ is. Thank you.
I will throw it to the team because it's too easy. So I want to find out if somebody can answer this.
He has answered the question already.
Please, can you explain it to our brother? He's asking what IntelliJ is.
I think IntelliJ is is what it helps you when you are using Java. It makes it
Java.
easier to understand Java. I think that's
Yeah.
I would say IntelliJ is the environment in which set up your framework and write your codes.
Yeah,
Mm.
And is it not a text editor? IntelliJ.
it's an IDE.
What's an ID?
It's
Um,
an
in,
integrated development
integrated
environment.
development environment.
Well done.
No.
So that tells me that a lot of you are doing well. You understand what we are doing. Yeah. So in today's coding, modern coding, we need certain tools that help us to code, and IntelliJ is one of them. And it helps you to normally people who are using Groovy language, Java language, and certain languages, IntelliJ is best for them. But the same company called JetBrains, they do one for Python called PyCharm. So that is also an IDE, and as people mention, is a development environment. But in the old school days, when they didn't have integrated development environment, this was what they were using. Some of you have seen it. So they were using this ones. They can use this to code. And even if you use Maven, you can run it from command prompt as well. And from there, it went to other editors like this, like Notepad. You can see this as I'm doing it, it's giving me a line of code. People can use this to code as well, especially with Java, because Java has, I think I mentioned this when we were doing the installation. Java has three components. It has the JVM, JDK, and that is what most of you downloaded. JVM, Java Virtual Machine, and JRE, Java Runtime, and Engine or whatever environment. This has most of it. Whilst you were setting your environment variables, it's like you are setting up it as a virtual machine. So Java is very portable, unlike .NET. So with Java, you can use it on any operating system because of how it works. And you can even code with this, your Selenium. You can create, so let me create a new file. It's asking me to make changes and save it on, let me save it as test. Okay. If I'm saving this in a Java, when I'm saving it, I have to use, let me call it Kwame, the same as Kwame. You see over here as type, all files. I have to do it like this, Java. Because I've saved it as .java, if I open this with IntelliJ, it will open as a Java file. Okay. If I want to save it as C#, I have to do .cs. If it's Python, so this is also can work as an editor, or somebody rightly said as an editor. But the ones you see like IntelliJ are senior editors because it has a lot of capabilities for building the code and for also compiling your code, for installing jars and things like that. So you can go on and on. Any other question? If no other question, I don't know if somebody can stop the recording for me.